Good evening. We're going to open the town council meeting for February 21st, 2023. It is 6 PM. We are in the Harvey hearing room.
It could be.
Roll,
Can you guys minimize that for
You
us?
minimize that for a moment?
roll call, please.
Counsel Honan.
Here.
Counsel Fusillo.
Here.
Counsel Munson. Counsel Belcher.
Here.
Counsel DeMarco. Counsel Flockhart.
Here.
Counsel Aiello.
Here.
Vice President Ruggiero.
Here.
President Lettieri.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the pledge. By Councilor Ruggiero, Vice President Ruggiero.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair deems it necessary to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30, Section A, Chapter 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open session may have a detrimental effect on negotiating position of the public body. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session? Motion by Counsel Fusillo, second by Counsel Belcher. Roll call, please.
Counsel Honan.
Here.
Counsel Fusillo.
Yes.
Counsel Munson. Counsel Belcher.
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco. Counsel Flockhart.
Yes.
Counsel Aiello.
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero.
Yes.
President Lettieri.
Yes, we will be in executive session. We anticipate it to be about 45 minutes or so. We will come back from executive session right into regular session. We are in executive session now. Okay, we are back in session. We are back in session. And we are now on agenda item 4, minutes. Approval of the minutes of the January 21st, 2023 meeting as circulated. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Councilor Flockhart.
We've discussed with Denise already, there was one correction to the charter change chart.
On item 9 in particular.
On item 9 on the charter, on the
Yes.
voting, okay? With that amendment being made, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. General information and recommendations, we have none. And public hearings. We have multiple public hearings. The first public hearing, I will open water bond loan amendment of original loan value voted June 21st, 2022, to increase the original from $2.912 million to $4.890,101 million. That public hearing is open. I would ask the DPW director to update us on this.
Sure, so, several weeks ago, we had a bid opening for the SRF project on Revere Street. We had 5 bidders. The low bid, all bids came in significantly high. The low bid was, 3.8 million, just over 3.8 million. Primarily due to the economy, increased material costs, significantly increased material costs. A fair amount of night work required for the project to work along that corridor, to have as little impact on the school and the business districts in that area. So we reached out to the state, and they said that they would consider increasing available funding, but that they would require us to add a 10% contingency on the lowest bid that we got. And then, SRF requires you to have construction administration, so we still have to cover the construction administration and the police details for the project. So that new loan amount, loan authorization request is, again, your low bid from the public bid opening, plus a 10% contingency, plus your required construction administration and police detail costs.
Okay, Counselor Fusillo, was this discussed in finance?
Yes, it was. We had a lengthy discussion about, how much it, increased, and we were, concerned about the added cost that it would be. However, we came to the conclusion that, with the money that we've already spent on this project and the fact that emergency fixes are significantly more expensive to do, we came to a unanimous decision of a positive recommendation.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on this item? Yes. Karen?
Karen Chavez, Precinct 2. Just a question, Steve. You said the low bid was $3,000,008.
The low bid was $3,878,273.50.
So the $1 million over that is to cover,
So
is the 10%.
the state requires 10%, which is $387,827.35, which gives you a subtotal for construction now of $4,266,185, plus you still have your $312,000 for construction administration, which is a requirement for
Right,
SRF funding, and your police details, which are estimated around,
And this is not a bonded to MWRA then, this is a.
this is SRF. This is-
Okay, this
yeah.
is different bonded, okay, thank you.
Jack? Yes.
Thank you. Jack Down, Precinct 1. I'm a little bit confused about what this money is for. I understand it's for a water main from what destination to what destination, first of all. And second of all, I'd like to understand if the PIPS project doesn't go out on schedule, what would it do to this water main project? Thank you.
Okay. If you could just give an overview of the scope of the project, Steve?
Sure, so the scope of this SRF project,
SRF,
Acronym for?
State Revolving Fund, yep,
thank you.
is water main improvements from McGee's Corner to Crest Avenue, which is the corridor for the TIP project, so it's readying us for that project. Then it's also going, this SRF project goes up Crest Avenue, and then down Grover's Ave to, from Crest Ave to the Winthrop Arms. And that's been on the, the capital plan. Grover's Ave and Crest Ave have been on the capital plan, so it's always incorporated into this project.
Vice President Ruggiero?
Second part of the question.
I'm sorry. Yes,
I'm sorry,
I asked a question.
you did.
What was
I
the
did.
second part of the question?
Again,
Yes,
Thank you.
please.
if the
Second
TIPS
part is-
project doesn't go as planned, will this water main project go as planned?
The water main project has to happen before the TIP project.
Right.
So whether,
The thought of the water
Oh,
main
thank you.
project is to
That
do,
answers- That answers my question,
yeah.
thank you.
to do street from sidewalk to sidewalk and not do the infrastructure, was the thought. Vice President
Thank
Ruggiero?
you.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Council President. Steve, or the town manager, could you just explain where we are so far with this portion alone? We've talked a lot about the TIPS project up to this point, but I don't think there's been much public discussion in this forum, at least, about the continuance. Well, it's not a continuance, it's separate, but I guess related from Crest Ave all the way up into Grover's. Have businesses, residents been notified? That type of stuff.
we
I know
haven't
a
put
lot of
out
work's gonna be.
any
yeah.
notices for night work or anything like that yet.
Okay,
Again, I don't know if the project's happened yet.
okay. Fair enough.
But we did make the effort to do it at night, so we minimize the disturbance for the businesses. That was a big concern for some of the business owners that came to us,
Yeah.
day-to-day traffic, so we're doing that at night to minimize that impact, so.
Okay. Just 'cause
There's also a simultaneous project happening on the other leg of Revere Street during the day, which is from the town line to Crest Ave. So you couldn't have the whole corridor down during the day.
Yeah, and a lot is happening there. A lot will continue to happen there. I think it's gonna be, it's on us in the town to make sure that everybody in that neighborhood and really the rest of the town understands what's happening and when it's happening. There's just a lot. It's busy. It's a busy space. So, yeah.
But as we promised and we talked about, once this gets going, if that does get approved, we're gonna have a public meeting down there with the business owners, invite everybody out in the parking lot, do it on a Saturday morning, so we can update them on the schedule, when it's gonna happen and all that, so we will be notified.
Awesome.
Steve and I already had many conversations about that, so.
There'll also be, like I said, construction administration is a requirement.
Yep.
So you'll have your two-week look-aheads like you did down at the CBD, things like that.
Perfect.
Councilor Aiello?
Yeah, I just wanted to, sort of, roads that we're talking about are really roads that are main thoroughfares for people in the town. Tony, you and I talked
Yeah.
about the National Grid work
Yeah.
on Washington, Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
When the contractors notify the immediate abutters, that's fine, but a lot of people in town get surprised that roads are closed down, or roads have been turned into one-way on these major thoroughfares. So we do need to, and Tony and I, we have talked about it, I know Steve's been in the loop. We have to get multiple
Yep.
outlets of
Yes.
media, because not everybody reads the transcript, not everybody looks at the website.
Yep.
I think more and more effort on communication, so people don't get frustrated, because we've got 3 or 4 big things all happening at that end of town.
Yep, and all
It's gonna
simultaneously,
be tough
yeah,
to deal with, so.
absolutely.
Councilor Belcher.
Thank you. Along the lines of letting people know, I just want to make sure we loop the MBTA into this. I don't know what hours the night work would be if the buses are still running, but that could be a potential issue. So just to make sure they're aware that they need to change their routes.
Good idea, thank you.
What is the cost differential between night work and day work?
I couldn't put an actual number to it.
Substantial?
What I'm told from the engineers with the bid review, that the bulk of the increase was due to material escalation, not night work. Because once they mobilize for night work, it's not like we're bouncing back and forth. Whether they set their crews up for nights or days, they have to schedule that. So they're already scheduled into that slot. There is an offset, but it's not as big as one would think. It's the material escalation was what really triggered the big
And
increase.
Councilor Aiello touched on a little bit in terms of time, but what time is night work?
Night work will be, I believe, the 10 to 6, I believe, is what, they have to be cleaned up and off the road by 6 a.m.
And my concern with this is on Revere Street, it's a lot of residential there, right? On the right side of the road. On Crest Ave, not as much residential, but still, it's a major inconvenience for residential to get night work if it's gonna be extremely noisy from
Right.
10 to 6.
I can tell you that the leg of Revere Street from McGee's Corner to Crest Ave is the shorter part of the project. It's a lot of valve cut-ins, getting control. It's not full water main replacement. It's valve cut-ins, it's abandonment of redundant mains. It's some lining work of that main, ones that we keep. So it's not full open road excavation all the way up Revere Street. They have services to move from, an age 10-inch main over to a 20-inch main, which is gonna better water quality for everybody on that corridor. So it's needed infrastructure work, but it is the shorter part of that project.
And the Crest Ave, Grover's Ave has been on the capital plan, like you said, for an extended period of time. The Revere Street is more in conjunction with the TIPS project, right? Where would this set us for complete infrastructure underneath that new $6 million project?
It'll give you as best of a water system that we can have in that section. It'll have spot repairs on what we've identified as problem areas in the sewer, and same in drainage. You're not getting full replacement in sewer and drainage. But you will get improvements. You're getting full drainage work from the TIP project, so this project isn't gonna touch on that. It's gonna focus on sewer
Sewer and water.
and water. This piece of the project changes drainage, minor changes to it, just to avoid conflicts for the water. But again, when the TIP project comes through, you're gonna get a full drainage system as part of that project.
And obviously, in terms of timing, we still have the National Grid project going on, right? And the TIPS project obviously can't start until the water is done on Revere Street. But once we get to Crest Ave, would they start the TIPS project, or would that whole project wait until this complete water
The TIP
project?
project's not gonna kick off probably until the spring of 2024.
Correct.
So this SRF project will be done this calendar year, if you vote it.
That whole length.
Yes.
Did you have another?
No, I was trying to get the vibrating sound off.
Any other questions from the public?
Yeah, thank you,
Mr. Dow.
appreciate it. As far as the cost to the ratepayers for water, is there a significant increase, or is it just a minor increase?
Well, I don't think there are minor increases. I think any increase is
Allowed-
significant. Yes.
Go ahead.
If it's a $4 million, I mean, rough numbers for me, and I don't wanna, I'm looking at the center project was 14 million, it was 65?
Does it mean in dollars per quarter? I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. I can't give you, I mean, I could give you a very rough estimate off the top of my head. I'd rather give you a more exact figure.
Oh, while we're in public, do it in your head, it's only a minor situation.
I'm guessing, I would guess it's somewhere
Robbie has that
around,
number. I don't know if Robbie's on.
Yeah, I think it's on, Robbie's not on, he's off this week. I think it's around 48 cents.
see, I would think it would be a little less, but in
Yeah.
that
It's in that
30 to
range, yeah.
40 cent range.
What does that mean?
40 cent to the water rate, 48 cents.
What does it
Right,
mean?
so what's the
to
water rate
quarterly
right now,
bill?
12?
Yeah.
So if it's 12, it's 10, 15%, so if you're paying, if the average person's paying, what's the quarterly bill? 600 a quarter, it's probably, I mean, Jack, to do this math
Well, I
this
thought it would be a
quickly in my
significant
head.
part of the conversation is
It's
why I
always, it's
asked.
always a difficult question to answer, to individual bills. Everybody uses water differently.
Well, let
And we
me,
try to compare household to household, it's nearly impossible to do.
do you have another question, Jack, and I'll try to give you some sort of
I
explanation.
think
Is
the
it-
public, I think the public would like to know.
Yes, I'm
That's
sure
why I
they,
asked the
and
question.
I would like to know as well. Counselor Belcher?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out something that came up in the finance meeting, that there is the 10% contingency built in. We may not spend that amount, so it may not be the full 4.8.
Oh, good, we're already getting a break, thank you.
Well,
Maybe.
Any other questions?
There's also loan forgiveness associated with that,
Right, exactly.
Principal.
10%. You say 10%, right? Or 10 to 15%?
It's averages, probably, 10 to 15% has been the average.
Any other questions on this? Jack, I will get back either by the end of the meeting or
Give me
first
a
thing in the
call,
morning, and I will get you a number. I just don't want to say something that's off. I think I have an idea, but I don't want to say it.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions, discussions on this? If not, I will close the public hearing, and we will open another public hearing. We will open a public hearing, town council vote to appropriate $143,900 from water retained earnings to pay for Revere Street PRV project. Director Calla.
Sure. So this is another SRF-funded project that was voted. Again, SRF funding is only eligible for construction, actual construction, construction administration, and associated police details. So that loan amount, the authorization amount that you just referenced is for the engineering and design for that project, which is not eligible under SRF funding.
Okay. Council Fusillo.
Yes, so we talked about this too. One of the things that came into a large part of the conversation was once again fixing it now versus an emergency fix later. Once again, fixing it now is and adding something new now is significantly cheaper than an emergency fix later. Also, the funding that that's being asked for here is coming out of retained earnings. So that's money that we have retained. And we had a unanimous positive recommendation coming out of committee.
All right, we'll open it up for comments from the public or comments from the,
Karen.
I'm sorry, Karen?
Karen Travis, Precinct 2. What is the balance in the retained earnings right now?
What is the number of retained earnings?
The balance in the retained earnings.
Oh, it's $1,517,395.
1 million what?
About 1.5 million,
1.5.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
And after this is, if this gets approved, it'll be 1.37.
1.3 and change.
495. Yeah.
Any other questions on the council? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. We will open another public hearing. Town council vote to appropriate $69,989.04 Monitoring and Compliance Modular. This is for a fob system down at DPW. Steve, do you want to speak on this?
So it's for a fuel management system for the town fleet, all the vehicles. What it'll help us do is track the fuel usage in all the different departments. So right now, we had a similar tool probably last used about 10 years ago. Well, you know, it's now obsolete, so this system will, again, you know, we know how much fuel we're using as a whole, but we can't identify
Who's using?
department by department. Right.
And can anyone speak of, is there any mandates from the state regarding this?
Well, for the green community requirement, we're required to report the fuel usage for the vehicles. So this will help us to track that. Right now, we're sort of guesstimating best with the vehicles and, you know, what the mileage comes from the, you know, manufacturer. This will allow us to tie it to the, you know, the F-250 using this, the Ford Explorers are using this, so we'll be able to get better traction on that and better data for the green communities folks as we start to apply for grants this year and beyond. So there is a benefit to that.
Any questions from the public? Any questions from the council?
Just real quick, just a little clarification. So this would be funded out of the Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund. So this is money specifically put away for things like this. Increases transparency for, you know, how much fuel we're using. And like Director Callis said, we've had a system like this before, so I think, you know, increasing transparency is always a positive thing. So with that, we also had a unanimous positive recommendation for this.
Okay. And the balance, the current balance is 300,000?
Yes,
And this
it's-
would bring it to about
230. 230 and some change.
All right, seeing no other questions, we will close that public hearing. These items will come up again under old business. We will open another public hearing to approve, town council vote to approve to amend the Code of Ordinances wetlands. And we will open this public hearing, and I will continue this public hearing to the next council meeting. There's still some work to be done on this, and it's still in committee, so we will continue this public hearing. Now we will open up the last public hearing on the solid waste ordinance. That public hearing is open. Town manager.
Thank you. As the council knows, we've been working on a draft of this for a little while. This will allow us to be in compliance, I believe, with what was promised years ago, that, you know, once we get to the trash barrels, it'll be allowed 1 barrel per household along with 1 barrel for recycling. Any usage over that will require purchase of bags. We're working on finalizing those numbers now, but this is a draft of the policy that'll lay out how the containers are done, the fees, when the bills are sent out, what has to go out. There's a lot of references back to the existing Board of Health regulations. You know, and it lays out the enforcement, the lien process, et cetera, et cetera. As we're discussing it though, I'd just like to point out a couple of numbers. Steve and I and Wendy have had a lot of conversations about this over the last few months. So just to go over the 2022's numbers that we just wrapped up, our curbside pickup fee from Capital this year was $938,148 for the curbside pickup cost. Trash for the last year, calendar year, we did 5,006 tons for a total pickup charge of $440,544. That averaged per ton cost, it varies a little, but it averaged between $85 and $88 a ton. On recycling, we did 1,506 tons for a total cost of $101,418, and that varied a lot over the year, wide ranging during the year, as low as $23.60 a ton, and as high as the current rate of $125 a ton. So right now, recycling's, you know, more than what the trash is. We replace on average 4 containers per week with some other minor repairs to lids. We ran the numbers on that. We figure the annual cost is approximately about $18,000 a year for trash container, you know, repair and replacement. And as we said, if this is proposed and approved as of July 1, additional trash that does not fit in one trash receptacle per residence, and then obviously recycling in the other, we'll have to purchase additional trash bags. At this point, we're looking just to sell the large trash bags that hold approximately 2 tall kitchen bags or 30 pounds. And the cost right now we're looking at, it's still not finalized yet, but we're looking at $3 per bag for the double. So 2 large kitchen bags would fit in that 30-pound bag. And that's about it, unless there's any other questions, but that's where we're at right now with it.
So the cost was $3 a bag?
Yes.
Okay. And I did notice something in here about possible abatements. Are people going to be able to purchase a smaller barrel? 'Cause
Yes,
the
based
goal is
on-
to
Yeah, there's
reduce
language in
the-
there with regard to if somebody's got a need base, or they feel like, you know, 160's a lot, and they're only.
I
made
saw a
one-
need base, but I didn't see just if somebody wanted to be conservative in their trash and take
Yep,
care of it.
file for an
and
abatement, they could come in and we come
File
up
for an
with a price
abatement and
for
get a smaller
half the-
barrel.
Yeah, half the size of the existing barrel, yep.
And I know there were originally some smaller barrels, but they're kind of recycle barrels or whatever they were, or just maybe switch out a lid. But do we have a cost for a smaller barrel for the town?
I think they're just under $60. The larger barrels are around $87 right now in today's cost.
And are they literally half what's the gallon
They're
size?
34 gallon, and the bigger ones are 64 gallon, so they're just a little bit.
Just about half,
yeah,
a little
just
bit
about
more than
yeah.
half. Okay. Questions from the public, and before I get to questions, we do have the Board of Health chairperson here. Bill, have you had a chance to take a look at this and have any comments on
So,
this?
thank you, President Lettieri. So I hope you won't hold this against the town manager, but he shared his draft with me, and I made some suggested edits, and he accepted all of them almost. So don't hold that against him, they accepted mine.
It was about form and style, they were fine.
But other than that,
No, great job.
Okay. Questions from the public? Mary Alice.
Yes,
P-
would,
Mary Alice Shockey, precinct.
precinct 1, thank
Thank
you,
you.
sorry. Do you think that limiting it to one recycled barrel, that will discourage people from recycling?
The one recycle barrel is a 64-gallon barrel. It's pretty substantial. And we're not limiting something new. That's the contract that was signed by
That
the
we have
previous
right
town
now.
manager.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
the
was
previous,
just wondering-
it's, the contract states you are, each residence has one recycle barrel and one mainstream trash.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. Yes, former council president.
If somebody has
Peter Gill,
put out
precinct
an
5.
extra barrel, 2 extra barrels.
Peter Gill, precinct 5.
Peter Gill, precinct 5.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. If somebody puts out more than they're supposed to, what are we gonna do? We're gonna leave it there?
If it's not in the proper bags, yes.
Okay.
And there'll be an education campaign that rolls out with this, and we'll try to get people ready, but it'll always be a little bit of a learning curve.
And will there
as
be,
you do it.
will there be an enforcement?
Yeah, there'll be usually the Capitol won't take it, and they'll put a sticker on it, you know, this does not comply, you need to buy bags, and that's how it works in a lot of other towns. So then there'll be a little bit of people will be upset in the beginning, but.
Yeah, there'll be a learning curve.
Yeah, exactly.
But will there be a fine for somebody who does it, or you just tell them they can't do it?
Eventually, but not in the beginning, not, you know, I don't anticipate any fines in the
Thank
first
you.
year or so.
And this isn't a new, this is the contract that was signed by the previous town manager. This is what the contract stated.
Right.
We've tried to be more than generous and over the first 2+ years in this, just allowing trash to be picked up. And we've informed Capital to please pick up, because they were under the impression that they were picking up 1 barrel per house. And we've let this go because even this portion has been a learning curve. 2.5 years ago, we were paying $1.1 million for trash to be picked up. We weren't paying tipping fees, we were paying a service for the whole kit and caboodle. Now we're paying almost $1 million a year just for the service of Capital to drive into town and drive in front of your house and pick up your trash. So that's just a flat service, and now we are paying for the trash to be disposed of, right? And, you know, and we've seen over the last 6 months, recycling trash has gone from $27 a ton to what it's currently now, $125 a ton. It's incredible. But, and, Mr. Dow,
Just one other
and then Cal.
quick.
Yes.
The bags, is that gonna cause a rodent problem? I know we've had rodent problems.
No,
before.
the bags are still supposed to be in a
They
container.
have to be in a
Yeah,
container with a
they're
lid.
not bags to be
Oh,
So you
thrown
can
on
still
the
put your trash barrel out, just what has to be in there is these purple bags that you'll buy around town, but they, you know.
So
you still
the
let-
extra barrel has the bag in it?
Correct,
Okay, good.
exactly.
Thank you.
Yes, but just for clarification, the barrel that you get from the town does not need purple bags.
Correct.
Right.
You could throw anything you want in there. If you're throwing out additional trash, you could put it in a regular barrel, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but the bag can't be out on the street.
Yeah, but you can't, it has to be a covered barrel.
And they're big.
Yeah.
Wait, play Van, put it on.
Wow,
And white.
wow.
Van is white.
Fast
Wendy's
track
show
ticket
now.
for $3.
So that's it.
And it'll have our town logo and stuff on it. But it needs to still be inside, and they have recycled materials in them as well. They're not just plastic, we actually are getting better bags. They're pretty thick.
Wow.
So they're gonna.
$3, please.
Huh?
$3, please.
This is definitely a $3 bag, but they need to be inside a bin, because currently and most people have noticed, if you leave a bag on the sidewalk, the habit's not picking it up. It's staying there, and it becomes your responsibility to take care of it during the week.
Mr. Dow?
Thank you, Jim. Jack Dow, precinct 1. A single-family home, there's some confusion, a person I talked to. Do they pay $160 per barrel, or just $160 per household?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. A single-family house.
Do they pay for 2 barrels?
No, they're not paying for the recycling barrel.
Oh, no, you get a
Oh, so you pay
recycling
for
barrel
one
and a barrel.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
$160 for the 2 barrels.
Ms. Chavez? And then, I'm sorry. Karen?
Karen Travis, precinct 2. Did I hear the town manager say this was not gonna be in effect until July 1? Did you say
That was
that?
what we're proposing, but yeah.
That's
Give
what
time
is
for an
being
education.
proposed. And our thoughts, I think, well, my thought, I don't want to speak for everybody on the council, but I'm pretty sure is, when we did the budget for fiscal '23, we did it based on what we have been doing. So to me, to add anything to that prior to the end of this fiscal year wouldn't be prudent or financial or fair to the people, so.
I guess that's my next question then. For the budget for FY '24, will we have some sort of a guesstimate
Yes.
on what the actual charge will be? Because we are going up again this year.
We are, yep, we have those
I
numbers.
forget what it is, but I know we
The
4%.
curbside fee's going up to $961,602 for
And we have-
FY24,
2 more years left on the barrels, is that correct?
I believe, so on the contractor, right? Are you talking on the contract?
About the payments of the barrels.
Yes, I believe so.
We have 24 and 25, am I correct?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a 5-year contract. Were the barrels put out over that whole 5 years or just a portion of that
It
5
was
years?
inside, no, it was in the beginning, yeah, it was part of the first year.
Yeah, I think it was 8.
We financed it over the 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, finally.
Yeah, hi, Karina Campobasso, precinct 3. I just have a really quick question, and that is, are you worried about people taking their trash to the public trash bins? I mean, the one across from our house, sort of kitty corner from our house, I know people sneak things over their big things or whatever sometimes, so I'm just wondering, is someone gonna be monitoring that?
We have a pretty good idea, and Steve and I have talked about that on the tonnage now, because we pick up on our own truck. We have our own smaller trash truck with
Yeah.
the compactor on it, and we go and drop that, so we know how many tons we take every year. If we start to see an increase in that, we'll be able to monitor that, and it'll be pretty obvious if they're stacking the bags up around those, so.
Yeah, so,
But
okay.
we will be keeping an eye on it, that's always a
Yeah,
concern.
it happens, it's been happening since.
Now,
Yeah, I
I
know.
agree with you, and we live at Ingleside Park, and the same thing at Ingleside Park.
Yeah.
There's 8 or so, or 10 containers across the streets, and, yeah, and it has to be monitored.
As long as
And I'll be
people are-
very honest with you, our people we have working with the DPW that go out and pick up in our little trash truck, if they see something, they give me a call, I open it, and we look. And if your address is in there, I might wanna bring it to your house, I'm just kidding. We'll know who it is, do you know what I mean?
Okay, good,
We
good.
are
I'm
paying,
glad,
we are paying more attention than people realize.
Yeah, okay, good, I'm glad you did.
Any other questions from the public? Any questions from the council? Vice President Ruggiero.
Just, if we're gonna call this to question tonight, I just wanna point out that we need to retire the current,
I think it's still gonna be another
okay,
meeting
I
before
wasn't
we
sure
do
what
it.
year, yeah,
Yes.
like if we take one off, put a new one on the books, yep.
And before I close this hearing, I will ask, because we are not going to vote on this tonight, do you want to continue the public hearing to give the public more opportunity to speak? I would like to continue. Is there a motion to continue it? All right, motion been made and seconded to continue this public hearing. So this public hearing will be continued to the first meeting in March. Okay.
Public comment.
Public comment.
Paul Sertle, Schwartzliggers, Precinct 5. I'm here to discuss the parking down the center, specifically from CVS, the French Square. There are 14 apartments from that area. There are only 12 parking spaces in that area. What's gonna happen? They are bleeding into the French Square area. Specifically today, there was a car parked in front of French Square, another one parked in front of Lanton Real Estate. This happens all the time. People that live in those apartments, you don't just stay for a couple of hours. They're there 1 day, 2 days. We had a car there in front of the eye doctors for 10 days. We had another car with a flat tire for a week. This is untenable. Something's gotta be done. Just like the town manager said, there's a learning curve for the trash. We need a learning curve for the parking in that area. It's just not acceptable. I did a walkthrough down the street. Of the 12 cars parked there, 3 had current stickers, parking stickers, 2 had out-of-date stickers. The rest of them had no stickers. We had 1 car with a inspection reject sticker that's 2 years old. We also had another car with an inspection sticker that was 4 years old. So something needs to be done to educate these people that get current with their stickers, and you can't park there all day long. I understand that they wanna park there at night, and, you know, if I lived there, I would wanna park in front of where I live too, but given the situation on the center now, we had, it's been what, 8 months since the construction's been over? Enough time to get up to speed with what the parking regulations are. I know they're new, and I'm pretty sure that hardly any of the people that live there know about the new parking regulations. And I know there's no signs up, but my suggestion would be, go to the property owners, tell them what the parking is, and educate their tenants on what they need to do. They got Hagman Road where they can park, they got Hagman Extension, they got the rink, and they also have by E.B. Newton. There's plenty of spots that are less than 5-minute walk from where they're living, and something needs to be done. During the holidays, there was a car parked next to my building. The people getting out of the car, I asked them politely, would you mind, could you park somewhere else? I have trucks coming, I have customers coming. They gave me the lip that, you know, we live there, it's a legal spot, we're not moving, and they walked away. And I just left it at that, but this happens on a daily basis, that, you know, they're just disregarding what the parking regulations are in the motor vehicle laws. So if you can help us with that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and I 100% understand you, and Brenda also, and at Christopher's, I totally understand that. Some of it is the onus of, you know, of getting signs, which I'll ask the DPW director, because, you know, we have to put the signs up first of all, and we actually did a walkthrough with a resident a handful of weeks ago that brought some new attentions to us that were really welcoming and helping. Part of it is enforcement, especially if it's an expired, you know, if it's a tire or a sticker, like a registration sticker, then that's just enforceable. We need to get signage down there to enforce, and we need to enforce, right? So that's on the council and on the town manager to make sure enforcement happens. But I will ask the DPW director if he could give us an update on signage and when we could see signage down there.
So the parking clerk, Mike DeLuiso, is actually working on a sign key to reflect the new language, the new parking language in that, you know, in the CBD. As soon as we get that key, we're gonna take the signs that we have and we're either gonna put a cost to replacing them, or we're gonna put a cost to rewording the signs that we got through the CBD project, which are all wrong at this point, so.
Could we get an estimate in time on how long this takes to come to fruition? And is there any temporary signs we could put down in the meantime to just reflect the current parking
I
conditions?
don't have
so
temporary
we
signs
can-
to put up, you know, other than, you know, trying to make stuff with stickers and signage. You still need the sign to put it on, you know?
I mean, there's, you know, there's issues, and totally understand what we're hearing tonight from Paul, and the majority of it, and I'm not saying it's limited to, but the majority of the issues right now stem from that one section of the center, right? It stems from CVS down to Sweats. Is there any type of signage we can get?
So Mike thinks
in
that he'll
there?
get me the key by the end of this week, maybe even as early as tomorrow.
All right.
Once I get that key and I see, what's required on Woodside, sure, I'll attack Woodside.
And if we could attack that section of Woodside from Pauline into the center, that would be fantastic as soon as possible. We have to do the whole center, and we know that, and we're well aware of that, but at least to address that section, because it is, I mean, I drove down there Monday morning, which was a holiday, right, yesterday morning, but it's amazing to see the amount of cars, and I'm not, it's no disrespect to the tenants there too, because they feel that they have a right to park in front of their property, and there is ample parking that is public parking in that area, right? There's no emergency parking and such. But if we could work on that area ASAP, please, from that section of Woodside would be fantastic. One more public comment, not one more, but public comment.
Brenda Christopher, Precinct 2. And really, right now in this, since they put the markings down, it's not really even the 2-hour parking that we're worried about. It's the blatant,
Disregard.
three more than 72 hours. It's the overnight. None of them have valid parking permits to be doing what they're doing. And over the holiday times, there was one car, it was 6 weeks in the same spot in front of my store. And I called and I got dispatched in Chelsea. They said, if he's there 1 o'clock in the morning, call us back. That's not right, until and it just sat there, because we didn't think there's anything else we could do, and we really shouldn't have to play cops. And I just want to give this to Denise, because this is just other businesses that feel the same way that we do, just to keep it in.
Record, yep.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Other public comment? Mr. Dow.
Thank you.
Oh, and then, yes, Mr. Dow.
Okay. A friend of mine is losing a lot of money because of vehicles parking in front of his business all day, every day. So hopefully we can get something going here. He's a long-time business person, deserves that type of respect to have the town put a sign up that will enhance his business and bring people to the center. It's gonna be a big issue ongoing, obviously, so hopefully you can do something sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Change the subject. This concerns the TIPS project. The sidewalks on the hill of Revere Street were laid down in 1938, coinciding with the improvements of Fort Banks. The sidewalks on the west side, Fort Banks side, were designed to increase pedestrian safety. The grass area, along with the trees, gave a measure of protection for people walking from one side of the hill to the other side of the hill. Bike lanes were first discussed a few years ago in this room. The first ever bike lane proposed in Winthrop was to be on Veterans Road. This effort was soundly rebutted at the town council meetings. It was determined to be dangerous. These proposed bike paths on Revere Street are more detrimental to the bikers and pedestrians than the Veterans Road bike path, simply because of the topography involved. The degree of incline should exclude bike paths on this hill. The obvious degree of slope makes a bike lane useless. Even more if there is inclement weather. I don't like to think about the ramifications. I have talked to 2 longtime Winthrop residents about the bike path. Both worked at Municipal Safety in Winthrop. No one in this group could recall a bike accident death on this hill. I'm thinking, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. This particular land on Revere Street in question is described on page 11 of the zoning ordinances. And I'm talking about the grass and the trees on the west side. Quote from the ordinances: open space landscape. Open space designed and developed for pleasant appearance in trees, shrubs, ground covers, and grass, including other landscaped elements, such as the natural features of the site. Walks and terraces, and also including open space accessible to and developed for the use of occupants of these buildings. This open space land that I have been talking about is protected by the laws of this state. The land is protected by Article 97, disposition of land. I have spoken about this article many times before this council. This TIPS project is disgraceful. Taking of open land, dangerous bike lanes, making walking on the hill at Revere Street a life-risking endeavor. Please don't sign your name to continue discussing this project as designed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Karina Campobasso, Precinct 3, and also member of Winthrop Mothers Out Front. I and some of my other members of Mothers Out Front are here to support your vote that's coming up on discussing community choice or negotiating a community choice aggregation contract. It's a fantastic thing. I was talking to someone who has community choice in Boston, and they are saving so much money with their electricity bill by because Boston has signed that, has a contract with it. So we're just here in support of that today.
Thank you. And we hope to be voting on that later this evening. We hope to be voting on that later this evening.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any public comment on Zoom? All right, we'll close public comment. Correspondence, Denise.
I had a few. I had one from John Stanley, who wanted to make sure that everybody speaks in their mics, as WCAT cannot hear us if we do not. That was the main concern. Thank you.
And that's it?
Unless
I got
anybody
some
else.
correspondence, both for and against the tree again at 190 Somerset. So just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Council Flockhart, same?
I did as well,
Okay.
and I've had people talk to me directly with concern about it. I didn't realize that it was coming up.
It is not.
It's not.
It's not in the agenda. It's not in the foreseeable agenda.
Just sharing, that's all.
Any other correspondence? Seeing none, let's go to committee reports. Finance and joint with Rules and Ordinance. Who wants to? Finance.
Yeah.
Council Ficello.
So we did meet jointly very quickly, and we needed more information, so we held that one motion in the joint committee. But moving on to finance, discussed a number of motions. One being the water bond loans amendment, the gas fob compliance module, and then the Revere Street PRV project, and the salary transfer from finance to the board of, so the BOA salary line. All of those we passed with the unanimous positive recommendations.
Thank you. Economic Development, Capital Assets. Was this John's? You want to
I can
give
do
a
quick
recap?
update, if
Sure.
that's okay, which is that we held a meeting with the town manager to review his early thinking about, I say early thinking and some advanced thinking in some areas, for the development of the capital improvement plan. We had a good discussion about it, and we're gonna meet again on the 28th
Yep.
at
5:30.
5:30?
5:30.
Okay,
I think
5:30
the
is
email said 5:30.
5:30.
Yep, that works.
We started there
Yep.
at 5:30, and hopefully we're gonna see a draft, and we'll make whatever comments on that, and then that will be advanced the following week to the full council.
Yep. Yeah, we had good back and forth, some really good ideas about what to include, what not to include, and kind of get the whole picture, you know, obviously we can afford what we can afford, but at least everything will be down on the capital plan, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, and as we've said before, this is the first time we're really crosswalking what we produce as a capital plan to what's required by the town charter. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna get us a long way there, and, but you'll see a pathway for getting more data in as the years go by, over the next 2 years, so, we're on a good trajectory.
Very good, thank you. School department report, the school committee met a couple of weeks ago last night, and the major topic of discussion, as it will be at subsequent council meetings and such, is the fiscal '24 budget. So they're looking at, a new format and budgeting process this year, which we will get into, I'm sure, over the next couple of meetings as well. And they're just starting to get their projections in from each building, and the superintendent is working extremely hard with the principals of each building to try to, put the goals of the needs and wants of our children first, and to maintain a school system that we can be proud of. And I'm sure that she will be able to accomplish that, but, it won't be without a lot of hard work, because the, 24 budget will be tight, as it just seems to be a rhetorical question at this point, right? That the budgets are gonna be tight, but, so the majority of the meeting was based along the fiscal '24 budget. And that is it for school committee. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I wanted to report a few things here. Berry and Dunn, the company we hired to do the study on the Park and Rec fee study, they will be and present in April, I believe, to the council. I had a good meeting with them last week. They're finalizing the report. A lot of good data, a lot of good information, and really giving Sean some guidance as to where to go with his fee structure, and as we move into the new fiscal year. But they will be in to give a full presentation to the council in April. Ferry update, we had a good meeting last week. We're trying to get the engines are just about done with the transmissions, and then we'll get it off to do the Coast Guard inspection. We're also talking to Massport about a possible, we couldn't do it last year, but adding the airport stop over at the hotel that's there by the airport, so that'd be another stop on the route. We're putting that together now. They've asked us to submit what the schedule will look like, so we're working on that. Some good news, we had an S&P rating call, Standard & Poor's last week. Been a few years since we've done it here in Winthrop, so we did that based on the reserve balance funds, the way that management of the town, all the good work that this committee's done, the council and everybody else. We were actually able to, we got notified late last week that we got an increase in our bond rating from AA to AA+. So it's a big kudos to the town for that. So you take a $2 million 20-year loan, that would save roughly about $25,000 over that life, based on today's rates. But obviously, interest rates and how long you get funded for, that'll vary. But certainly allow us to get better rates as we move forward, as we know we've got some projects coming up. So that's some good news for the town. Talked about the capital meeting that we had. Thank you for that. I'll be meeting with the school committee on the 27th, which is why we're doing our meeting on the 28th, to review the new budget format, the base budget document that we've talked about, sort of putting percentages to the budget and what the town and the school takes, and moving some of the expenses around and explaining that thought process. So we're gonna start that with the school committee on the 27th. We'll have the finance team in to discuss it with this board in the first meeting in March, and then on March 14th, we're meeting with the Citizens Finance Commission, so. budget. That's why I said Citizens Finance.
No, it's just the finance.
I'm going by the charter, doesn't say citizens in the charter.
It's confusing.
No,
It is,
that's,
yeah.
that's the committee.
That is.
Oh, the committee, all right, so the finance commission,
Yeah, it's
thank you.
confusing.
On the 14th, Karen and her team. So, so we're getting the ball rolling on the budget, and then we'll have a, I guess my question to Council President, the March, I know we talked about the spring forum coming up, anticipation to have that budget document ready by then, or at least a draft of it. I know last year was a little later, so I just wanted to make sure I'm setting my expectations right here.
Yeah, I think that would be,
That would be realistic, okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Just wanna make sure, no problem for that. We're also, I know there's been some discussion, TSAC is taking up a, sidewalk and crosswalk policy. We're also looking at, obviously, with the accessibility issues, I think it was Woodward and Curran, Steve, right? A few years ago, back in 2019, they did a grading and assessment of all our roadways. While they were doing that, Steve had the forethought to, hey, while you're there, can you look at the sidewalks? So we have some partial work on that done, not so much as far as how many we need, how many more accessibility, accessible, curb cuts we need, but more on like the, what type of materials there and whatnot. So we reached out to Woodward and Curran and saying, all right, you've already done some of that work. What would it cost to finish it and give us, we have a ballpark on what we think for the total curb cuts, but to look at the accessibility and what the total curb cuts would be, and then they could put today's pricing to linear foot costs and things like that. So we're gonna see what that would cost to do that to finish it off. But we are working on the sidewalk policy, which is what we promised, and that will, be, be before the council, just to incorporate the ADA standards.
Crosswalk policy.
Crosswalk.
Crosswalk.
Yeah, that's crosswalk, but I'm also working to add on to the sidewalk policy as well, and above and beyond that. And then also meet with the Complete Street folks, that you're gonna put another person on that committee, we'll have a meeting with that committee to, tie this all into sort of a more comprehensive policy as we do. We lay out, we're gonna do 10 roads this year, well, then we're gonna meet beforehand to talk about it. Can we make some improvements, can we look for bump outs where we need be, and that kind of stuff, so. Just wanna let you know that's all ongoing in process.
Okay.
And lastly, we had a great moment last week. We had a family in need here in Winthrop with a child with cancer, and the Cops for Kids with Cancer is a group that goes around and gives money and loan donations to families in need. They were able to donate $5,000 to this family. We were there with the Everett Police and the Winthrop Police, and we also let the family know about resources we have locally with regard to what Meredith does in the health department and Barbara Pucci. So we're putting that family in touch with them. So more to follow on that, but it was a nice moment to be able to give that and meet the family and come down and play around. The kids came down and messed around with the police cars and stuff like that. It was a nice moment. So it's one of the more nicer things we get to do to help families in need. So just want to let everybody know that. And with that, I'm certainly open for questions.
Any questions for the town manager? Council Aiello.
Just a follow-up on the parking situation that the two business folks raised. We've really got to get the police department down there and do some enforcement seriously, consistently, independent of the signs.
We write a ton of tickets, Joe, but its problem is we gotta get signs up too.
Yeah.
Tickets are only valid when you get signs up to say what they're.
The tickets are
violating.
good for registrations or no.
Right, absolutely,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
and we do ticket for that
Yeah,
stuff.
there's a whole series of things. I don't think I've ever seen a ticket on that stretch, and I walk that stretch almost every day. And
Okay.
you really gotta push the chief to say this is critical to the survival of the businesses, et cetera, down there.
I already got notes on all that.
And on signs, I just want to follow up on what the president said. Any way of getting temporary signs, accelerating permanent signs, we've got to show the business people down there that there's a date that this stuff is going to be solved at. So I think enforcement immediately, we should all be able to walk down the street and see that there's tickets. I'm not kidding about it, right? And we gotta get up some signs immediately that provide some direction and relief to people so that we can ticket more and do some more enforcement. It's just, it's killing them.
Councilor DeMarco, and then.
I'm gonna be really quick. Just so everybody knows, I know there's new 2-hour enforcement on parking regulations. What are the times that the parking sticker is required if you park down the center?
1 to
Well, the
5,
parking
right?
sticker down the center is the same as the parking sticker.
Well, no, I mean, the parking sticker, I mean, you,
Overnight sticker you're talking?
yeah, I'm talking the parking sticker that we,
Parking permit.
yeah,
It's 1 a.m.
1 to 5.
1 a.m. to 5. So I just want people to know that sticker, like, you can park anywhere you want as long as it's not between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m.
But without the sticker, you cannot.
You
park.
can't park overnight. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's what I'm saying. Yep, okay.
Council Flockhart.
I just wanted to reinforce Counselor Aiello's need to have a little more reinforcement in the CBD. I was with a business downtown in the center today, and they too were saying there are cars parked in spaces that are not spaces and overflowing the space so that they're blocking driveways. And there's a lot of problems with the parking.
Councilor Belcher.
Thank you. I mentioned it earlier, but letting the MBTA know about the road work on Revere Street and stuff, we know they're kind of slow to respond to us, if they respond at all. So it may be worth going to Paul Revere directly, since they contract out through them.
Right, we
And it's
get-
probably worth starting much earlier than we feel we need to make sure that goes well.
Vice President Ruggiero.
Sort of a question, just to circle back on something that we talked about a couple meetings ago, but the paying class study. Do we have updates on that? Is that?
Yeah, we're still collecting data for them. Like I said, it won't impact this fiscal year, like I said before. We'll get it sometime late spring, early summer, and then it'll be used for FY '25 and moving forward.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
All right. thank you. Commission on Disability Inclusion and Community Relations, Town Manager.
Again, we had a meeting, I attended their meeting, last week or the week before, they all kind of went together there, but anyway, the last, meeting, I've got their agenda here. We went through, bunch of stuff, they had similar concerns, regarding parking downtown, things like that, CBD district. So as we kicked around a lot of stuff about when the signs were going up and things like that, so that got discussed. One of the fun things is, the company Bespoke is having an event at 8 Michael's Mall, Zando Pop-Up Shop on March 25th. So they're looking forward to that. There'll be some information in my town manager report, and then reached out to Betsy Shane about the downtown business, try to get some sponsors and things like that. So they're excited about that. Talked about the calendar year, things coming up, what they wanted to do. They haven't really dialed in yet, but we're working on some stuff. And then what I let them know is that, you had made people were gonna work on the flag policy. I reached out to them to start thinking about the flag policy and maybe a list of holidays and things that they think we should have for flags going up and down and schedules and things like that. So they're gonna give us some input on that. And I also promise once we get a draft of the flag policy to get it out for them for review as well, so. And that's about it.
All right, questions? Yes.
I've heard this rumor from a couple of people. Did the D&I committee write a letter to either the Mass Architectural Barrier Board or the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination protesting the vote we took on the Somerset tree?
I think John Morgan and a few others might have reached out, yeah.
As the committee?
And I'm not sure as a committee or individuals, I think maybe.
I think we
yeah.
want to be careful about protocol of a town, I don't know what the law is, right?
Yeah.
But town-appointed committee, hey, they could end up hating us, it's their right, and they
Yeah.
could disagree with us, but shouldn't the protocol be they should come to us before they go reach the state enterprise? If you extrapolate this across all the committees, we'll have complete madness here. So, if they're doing it as individuals, you can't stop them, but if they're doing it as a committee, that's very problematic in my mind.
Yep, I'll find out how they did. I know they raised some concerns, but we're still working on that as, 504 coordinating, things like
Yeah,
that.
but if you could find out
How they did it,
how they did it
yeah,
and to whom they did it.
yep,
And then maybe we need to think about a policy to sort of at least suggest a rational method of communications when they disagree with the council.
yep. Yeah, like I said, I'll double check. I know John Morgan, John was working on that, so I'll find out exactly. I thought
Yeah,
it was him
that'd be great.
personally, but I'll
Thank
confirm
you.
that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Old business. So first item, ordinance review committee recommendations. We did a lot of work last week on the charter, several weeks past, on the charter recommendations, and we still had 4 ordinance recommendations, I think question 4, 8, 11, and 12. I'm going to continue this. We have new town attorney, whichever way you want to say it, council attorney, coming in a couple of weeks, and we think it's good for them to take a look at the charter things before we move forward with that, to make sure those are all up and good, and to take a look at these too, and then come back, so we'll have more clarity as we go forward with, I think, pretty much all of them seemed, like really good ideas, but I'd like to have some knowledge before we did anything with them, so we're gonna continue that till the next meeting. Water bond loan amendment. Do you have a motion, Councilor Fusillo? Or do you want me to read
Yes.
it, or you have it? You have it?
I
Go.
have it here. So in summary, it's a long thing, so could I, motion to waive the reading of the,
No, I think, you know what, this is going from 2 million to 4 million, I think it's worth the 2 paragraphs.
So, I order that the town council I order that the order of the town council passed on June 21st, 2022, authorizing a borrowing in the amount of 2.9 million for the water main project is hereby amended to increase the authorized borrowing amount for the project to $4,890,101, which amended order shall read as follows in its entirety. Ordered that the town appropriates a sum of $4,890,101 to pay costs of constructing and reconstructing water mains on Revere Street, Crest Avenue, and Grover Street, including all costs incidental and related thereto. that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 8, and/or Mass General Law, Chapter 29C, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, that the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, the trust, established pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 29C. And in connection therewith, the treasurer is authorized to enter into a loan agreement with the trust, and the town manager is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection, and that the town manager is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project.
Thank you. I appreciate the reading. Thank you very much. There's a motion coming out of finance with positive recommendation, does not require a second. Is there discussion on this motion? Vice President Ruggiero.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. So this did pass unanimously, so I don't want to belabor the point, but, I think we got to keep in mind, construction, it's never convenient in the moment. I think we all know that, but this is for capital improvements. This is for water, sewer infrastructure improvement. And once it's all done, it's gonna look and feel and be a lot better than it was. We just gotta keep that in mind. Let's try to see the forest through the trees here on this one.
Any other, Council Honan?
Just want to confirm that this increase, the significant increase, has to do with the price of materials.
That, what we were told by the DPW director earlier is the vast majority of this increase is due to, I think some of the increase is due to night work, my understanding, but it was said that the vast majority is due to increases in construction costs. Council,
You can go first.
Council Aiello.
It might be good to get a report from the consulting engineer on exactly what happened here, because, material costs have been rising. That is true. That should be known. If night work was known, that's a premium that is known. That should be known. So the divergence between what we got for bidders versus what the engineer thought, those can explain it, but you wouldn't expect an engineering company to be caught surprised by this stuff. One question is, are we not reaching out to attract enough contractors to get adequate competition? But it would be good to get a formal explanation in writing from the engineer about when they did it, because time is also a factor, right? If you do an estimate 6 months before you put the thing out to bid, and then the thing comes out to bid 2 months later, well, you got 8 months of inflation that might have been to a high inflationary period. It would be just good, I think, for the council's edification to get a formal memo from the consulting engineer about what drove it and how do we end up here.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think, if you look at this is roughly a 34% increase, right? And if you look at the TIPS project, started out before this, I believe, the original. And I think it was mentioned a couple meetings ago that project has gone up, but it didn't go up 40%, 35%. So, I have serious questions about this, and I think the phase of the project that's from, and I would have even liked to get it separated out, right, to see what the original capital project that's been on the agenda for several years, to do Crest Ave and Grover's Ave. I would like to see it separated out to see what the difference might be. Is it 2 million for that? Is it not? I don't know. I have reservations, but I think, to Vice President's good comments about, trying to look and to say, we could talk about so many capital projects. We look at, you look at the middle school and you say, geez, middle high school at 85 million, and we thought that was crazy, and now they're building schools for 250 million. So I guess it was better that we did it when we did. Maybe this 4.8 ends up being 6.6 in 2 years. I don't know. But at some point, you also have to look at the availability for the ratepayers to pay. And I think there was a question asked, is it a big increase? I think any increase is considered, it's an increase. It's substantial. So I would like to see more spread out thoughts on this payment too. I just think it's, I know the feelings I had when the trash contract went up 35%, and I was against that, and I still have nightmares about that contract, but, we all know that prices have gone up drastically. Had they gone up 34%, I don't know. Inflation's, was as high as 9, it wasn't 34. But, good point, thank you. Council Fusillo.
Yeah, I just want to throw in that we also, like mentioned before, this does also have a 10% added contingency, as well as the fact that we might not use all of it. Also, that they offer principal forgiveness, which can range between, it has precedence in the range of 10 to 15%. So, while yes, it does look large up front, I do think that there's still an opportunity that we don't use all of that money.
Were all of those aspects, to what you're saying, part of the first bid?
The 10% contingency.
Council Honan.
I don't think so.
Did we have there's always a contingency built into any bid, yes.
Yes.
Was it 10
I think
for the
there's
original one?
Yeah, if you look at the CBD project, it had a
always have
10% contingency involved, yes. And if you do look at these projects and you look at a $6 million project that's going to redo all the streets, it only makes sense. This was one of the reasons way back when I was hesitant on the TIPS project, because, even if you're getting something for free, you kind of have to do that infrastructure work, because the worst thing, you don't want those beautiful roads and then you're ripping them up because there's a water main break 2 months into it. So, it's very difficult to look at. It's something that obviously should be done, and there's no doubt in the need. I'm assuming, and I don't know, but I'm assuming the water pipes on Grover's and Crest are, many decades old and haven't been replaced, I know in this century and probably halfway through the last century. So, anyway, Councilor Aiello.
Yeah, let me just be clear. I'm not suggesting we don't do these projects. They are critically needed, and we gotta get them done. It's just sort of, in order for us to do adequate budgeting and forecasting, we should just have a document that describes, from the engineer's perspective, how they put that together and what were the surprise elements, so we sort of can know and adequately deal with this kind of stuff in the future.
Any other discussion on this? Seeing that, nope. Seeing none, this recalls a roll call vote. So I will ask for a vote.
Council Honan,
Yes.
Council Fusillo,
Yes.
Council Munson, Council Belcher,
Yes.
Council DeMarco,
No.
Council Flockhart,
Yes.
Council Aiello,
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero,
Yes.
President Lettieri.
No.
Thank you.
6-2, it passes. All right, the next motion, town council vote to appropriate $143,900 water retained earnings to pay Revere Street PRV project. Councilor Fusillo.
Yep, I motion that the town council vote to appropriate $143,000 from the water sewer retained earnings to pay for the Revere Street PRV station SRF project design and engineering, or take any other action thereto. That would take our water and sewer retained earnings from $1,517,395 to, if this is approved, to $1,373,495.
Thank you. This is coming out of finance with a unanimous, I believe, positive recommendation. Any discussion on this? This was also discussed earlier in the public hearing. Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Council Honan,
Yes.
Council Fusillo,
Yes.
Council Munson, Council Belcher,
Yes.
Council DeMarco,
Abstain.
Council Flockhart, Council Aiello,
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero,
Yes.
President Lettieri.
Yes, that motion passes. Councilor Fusillo.
Yes, I motion that the town council vote to appropriate $69,989 from the Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund to a new special article account for a new fuel management system, or take any other action thereto. That would take our Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund balance from the town charter cap, $300,000, to $230,010.96.
Any discussion on the motion? This came out of finance with positive recommendation, does not require a second. Councilor Belcher.
Thank you. I just want to point out that this 69,000 includes the equipment costs that aren't a year-to-year expense. I don't have it in front of me. Do you remember what it was? I think it was like 8,000.
Yeah, approximately.
So the hosting fee? The hosting fee
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
asking?
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
hosting fee.
Yep.
So this isn't a 70,000 a year thing. It's 70,000 initially and then
And the
8,000.
equipment costs, 8,000 moving forward.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Council Honan?
Yes.
Council Picello?
Yes.
Council Munson? Council Belcher?
Yes.
Council DeMarco?
Yes.
Council Flockhart?
Yes.
Council Aiello?
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero?
Yes.
President Lettieri?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Counselor Fusillo.
All right, the last one here is, all right, I move that the town council vote to transfer $6,000 from the finance department salary line and $4,800 from the conservation commission salary line to the board of appeals salary line, or take any other action thereto. And once again, this came out of committee with a positive recommendation.
It did come out of committee with a positive recommendation, does not require a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like some,
Counselor Honan.
I'd just like some more information on it, why this transfer is happening from Conservation Commission to appeals.
Town manager.
Sure. As I talked about before, we put a conservation down with Stacy Marley down in sorry, the ISD office, inspectional services, where it was before. Makes a lot of sense. We're having issues with zoning. We decided to kind of focus our planning director basically on zoning and planning, as is should be. And that's actually seen some recent, clearing up some things and, having better action minutes, better notifications, things like that. And having access to ISD also gives us access to additional inspectors, additional resources. That's why it was always down there before. Like I said, I've got 10 years experience running a similar department. I can tell you having all of that in one shop is really, beneficial, whether it's sending inspectors out to check, wetland lines, doing all that kind of work. I've had multiple meetings with conservation. They're excited about the change, so moving forward, that's where it'll be.
And then the Board of Appeals increase would go towards someone's salary?
There's no increase in salary. Small additional hours for the person doing it down in ISD, but that's covered up, part of the monies that we had set aside for the zoning board of appeals and then conservation. So that'll be adjusted in next year's budget. This is to just get us through to the end of the fiscal year. I'll talk about it more when we present the budget for FY '24.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
But nobody's getting a bump in salary, other than additional hours worked.
For Board of Appeals.
For, not board of appeals, person, the planning director salary stays the same, that's not changing. This is just for the additional hours for Stacy down in ISD to take
But
over
it said that
conservation.
it's going from the Conservation Commission to the Board of Appeals.
Correct, we're moving the money around, because remember, part of Rachel's salary was paid out of conservation, so we had to move it over.
And Stacy is in,
Inspectional services.
I'm sorry, I'm just not clear where the Board of Appeals is coming into this and why why money's being allocated to the Board of Appeals.
There was already money allocated to the Board of Appeal, I guess I'm not understanding the question.
To transfer 6,000 from the Finance Department
Department,
salary
right, we had
line,
additional funds there to pay for it, right?
Conservation line, to the Board of Appeals salary line.
Correct, because now Rachel's salary is being paid out of the
Right.
Board of Appeals, so we had to increase that to
Got it,
cover
got
it,
it,
and then
got it.
conservation gets the other
The
balance.
salaries aren't changing, it's just
Just
getting paid
shifting the
from
pots
the
of money
department,
around, that's all.
Got it.
Yep,
I didn't realize part of Rachel's salary is now coming from the Board of Appeals.
because she's covering the Board of
Right.
Appeals.
Got it. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you. The next one, vote to approve and amend Code of Ordinance on wetlands is continued. Solid waste ordinance. We can discuss this tonight. We're not going to vote on this tonight. But if we have questions that we could prepare the town manager to be, to be prepared for the next meeting, that would be great. If not, we could continue to take a look at it. We all have a copy of it and ask questions or direct questions via email. But if we have questions now, Councilor Aiello.
Yeah, I've reviewed it and sent in my comments, so I think it's in good shape. To me, the big thing is having a formal communications plan. Once we take an action on this, assuming it passes.
Yeah.
Let's have that in writing, what we're gonna do, who's gonna do it, when we're gonna do it, and how frequently we're gonna do it.
Wendy's on that. We've had conversations about it, we're ready for the rollout, so, yeah.
The 10th counselor.
Yeah.
We also have to look at the, houses, housing complexes, units that are taking real advantage of the leniency that the town has had over the past couple of years and reel that in.
Yep, we've got meetings set up this week. Wendy and I are meeting with some of the group homeowners tomorrow, and then Steve and I have a meeting with Peg Lyons from the housing on Thursday, so.
And again, I would just like to get some pricing on the smaller barrels and some clarification on that and just the fine-tuned numbers. You know, we've talked over the last 15 minutes about a lot of money and borrowing and such, and which is why the financial policies that we've enacted, that's why they're so critical, because it led to increase in our rating, which saves substantial money. I mean, I knew through a past council president who's sitting here now that helped us raise our bond rating way back when, and we saved upwards of $8 million over the lifetime borrowing of the middle high school. So it's incredibly important to be financially prudent, and I thank you for continuing the work of the council. Any other questions on solid waste for the town manager to take a look at for our next meeting? And anyone who has other comments can get to them, like Councilor Aiello did, via email. And I'm sure Tony will take those suggestions to heart and give us the answers we need. Thank you. Committee handbook, Councilor Belcher.
We will be meeting on March 6th to go over any feedback if we got it from committee chairs. That meeting is posted, and we encourage anybody who's on committees or has been on committees to come and offer their suggestions.
Okay. And Complete Street Policy Committee appointment. I do have an appointment that the town council accept the appointment made by Town Council President Lettieri to appoint Tom Dedarian to the Complete Streets Policy Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Belcher. Any discussion on the appointment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Tom. And this will complete the committee, and I am sure the town manager has work already set up.
Yep, we're gonna get ready to have our first meeting, so.
New business. Town council vote to authorize $12,719.80 for unpaid bills of a prior year. I am going to refer this to finance. Town council vote to authorize $15,000 for ISD pest control. That will also be referred to finance. Town council vote to review current Winthrop Fire Department fees. I will ask finance to do that as well.
No pressure, Rich.
Used to it.
Flag policy is on the agenda once again, and I know the town manager has a policy that he is working on, and will bring it to the CDICR also for their comments, and hopefully we will have that back, hopefully we will have it before a meeting, so we have a chance to digest it and take a look at it, and hopefully we could put that issue to bed for once and for all.
That's the plan.
Thank you. Town council vote to authorize town manager to research new electricity servicing options for our town. Now, this had been discussed at several meetings ago. If the town manager wishes to, can't speak now, nope, but after, next public comment, but not, if the town manager just wishes to give the audience, the public, a little update on this, and hopefully the council can take action on this.
Sure, as you know, we had that presentation a while back. Thank you. Good Energy, they're a local group. They basically came in and presented, we basically would allow us to pool the resource of the community aggregation for electricity, allow you to buy it, choose options. You can choose the minimum percentage that the town will vote for renewable energy, or if somebody chooses and they want to be, better stewards of the environment, they can, increase that percentage. So it puts that ownership back, but as a whole, it actually allows for cheaper energy to be purchased in Winthrop, which is what we're going for. Some of the holdups here, and I talked to the outgoing city manager in Chelsea, they approved this back in '21, and still 2 years later, they're waiting for the Department of Public Utilities. With the new administration coming in, there's been a little more pressure on public utilities to get these approved a little quicker. So I think if we get in the queue now, approve this, Winthrop will be able to get approved relatively, hopefully quickly, and get in the queue. But this will be the first step. If you approve this, then we can go out and put get Good Energy involved, and then they would be our supply, power aggregator for, for lack of a better word, for Winthrop, and allow us to be able to not have to be so subject to the national grid increases and have a little more flexibility and save some money for the residents and the business owners.
It's a great idea. And do we have any thoughts, comments, questions? Councilor, Vice President Ruggiero.
Thank you. I'm all for this. I think this is obviously a great idea. I just want to reiterate a point that I made when they came in for their presentation, that however this is branded on our website, we just want to make sure that it's clear to customers or potential customers that there is this co-branding agreement with the town of Winthrop, but you don't want to be calling Denise if your power goes out, or you don't want to be calling the town, right?
Right.
So, we just want to make sure, I mean, you can, I'm sure she'll pick up, but, we just want to make sure the MOU or whatever we have in place, like the line is drawn in the sand there. So.
And to be clear, like, your bill will still come from National Grid, it'll just be purchasing power from a cheaper alternative,
Okay.
but there's always that charge on the bill for the line fee, for the maintenance of the lines and all that, so that doesn't change, that stays the same, so.
Council Flockhart.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to point out that the Senior Center had National Grid in last week to review considering other
Yep.
suppliers. So there were quite a few people who went in and then availed themselves of the state line where you can
Right.
go in and choose. And what we're talking about is only supply. National Grid's deliveries remains
Correct.
exactly the same.
Yep. As far as line maintenance, power outages, National Grid's still fixing all
Right, and
that.
the choice might be renewables, or it might be 50% renewables, or it might be no renewables.
Correct.
Not no.
Well, we probably wouldn't choose to take
Right.
no renewables.
The
but
town will
it
choose a
could be.
percentage, but people are, like I said, have the choice to,
Yes.
Up it.
up it if they want to, yeah.
Any other thoughts for the town manager? So I'm going to ask for a motion for the town council to authorize the town manager to research new electricity service options for the town. The motion made by Councilor Belcher, second by Councilor Flockhart. Any discussion on the motion? Now I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Counselor Honan,
Yes.
Counselor Fusillo,
Yes.
Counselor Munson, Counselor Belcher,
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco,
Yes.
Counselor Flockhart,
Yes.
Counselor Aiello,
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero,
Yes.
President Lettieri.
Yes, passes unanimously. We expect this up and running next week.
Yeah.
And good luck on that.
It will be a process, just so everybody understands,
Yeah.
but we hope it will be a quicker
Could be a-
process than some of our neighboring towns.
Yes, we do.
Town hall parking lot, I'm asking the town manager to maybe go through TSAC and look at a few things, but looking at making 4 or 5 spots in the town hall lot or in front, 30-minute spots for town hall business only. I'm getting comments from people who are, in here trying to pay a bill and can't find a parking space. So, I would like you to, we would like to direct you to look for 4 or 5 spots that can be designated 30-minute town hall parking only.
Based on other inquiries, we've already got some
Yes.
ideas how we can make that happen, so.
Yep.
And I've talked to Mike and others in TCF, so I think we'll come up with a good plan, so.
Okay. And I'm sure we have other questions on the town hall parking, the lot in its entirety, but this is,
Yep.
I think, something that we could do in the short term that wouldn't require a lot of changes. Vice President Ruggiero.
Yeah, and there's a municipal lot ordinance in place that we can
Yes.
amend
Yep.
if you choose to go in
Yep.
that direction.
Sure, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Rink locker room expansion. Back in 2018, the then council voted to maintain the rink in its current spot. The rink at that time put in roughly $60,000 into a plan to expand locker rooms. The rink right now currently has antiquated locker rooms, poor restroom facilities, needs to be updated, using some spots in the middle school, and want to be able to isolate themselves, for lack of a better word, into their facilities, into their own facilities. There was a group here 5 or 6 years ago that had a plan and asked us to put this on hold, or asked the rink to put this on hold, which the rink did. The group never got back with viable options, so the rink wants to go forward. I had conversations today with a former Winthrop resident that is a manager of a relatively local rink, and asked a ton of questions to try to get some, answers to some questions I had. But the rink is asking just to, to be able to go forward. This would not require town funds. This is any bonding that needed to be done. There was a bonding authority already given to them. We saw the 34% increase in 2 years, so this was 6 years ago. So we know there is an increase in trying to get it again, so it's its own facility, so it could pay for every nickel and dime that it deserves to pay for. So we will be coming back. I'm not asking for any votes tonight. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to remind the council that there was a motion made and passed, and I think their plan is to go forward, to keep the town involved in anything that it's doing, but to look at that and to keep them aware that that's their intention to go forward. This is something that's been in the process for over 6 years now. I know one of the members in the audience there has been a part of this, Karen Chavez, over the last 6 years, and has seen multiple engineers coming in and going, and bringing that facility to a place where it can rent for the prices that are now in line, which they are not, and to bring the facility up to current standards for ADA in terms of bathrooms and such. We will keep you updated on that, and also on the middle school. I think it's, we'd like to start making some decisions. I think some of the counselors have had walkthroughs through the middle school gymnasium, and the thoughts on that, and looking into possibly having a building assessment done to give us an idea. I mean, I don't think, community space is at a premium in this town, and I know there was a counselor that went recently to one of their, is it a Friday night? That they offer to the children of the town, and it's incredibly well attended, and there's a need for community space, we know that, and, but there's also a limit as to what we can afford to do. But I would like to urge the town manager to look into and to come back with us with thoughts and ideas as to a building assessment for that building. Gives us a better thought as we start this process going to finally getting that site into some sort of feasibility area. But it gives us, and it gives the councilors an idea of what could be done, what needs to be done, what can be done. Could it be a community center for homework zones and for CASA and for, obviously community activities and such, and used by the children and adults of the town. But I think it's time we started having some options. Councilor Flockhart?
Thank you, Council President. When we were building the new middle high school, it was presented to the town that the auditorium and the gymnasium would be available to the town. And I understand that because of COVID, it got closed down. But it seems like we're now proceeding, assuming that we don't have that available.
That we don't have the gymnasium available, or the auditorium?
The auditorium and the gym in the new
Oh,
building.
no, I would love to keep the auditorium and retrofit it to a Lynn Auditorium type facility where we could host events and such.
I'm talking about in the
But-
new middle high school.
Oh, the new middle high school auditorium to be
Yes.
available to the public?
It is. That's the way it was
It is available
originally.
to the public for a fee, and you have to go through the process, but,
Okay, and the gymnasium over there too.
well, the gymnasium is like any of the gymnasiums. The Fort Banks Gymnasium, the ATC is available, but you have to understand that in the middle high school, for example, there's one gym. There's, for example, for basketball, you have middle school gym boys, middle school gym basketball boys, middle school basketball girls, JV basketball boys, JV basketball girls, varsity basketball boys, varsity basketball girls, volleyball freshmen, girls, volleyball, you know, there's multiple uses of that gymnasium. You have one school and the gym is, I want to say it's 60% or 70% bigger than the prior gym, but it's still one gym. It's just one bigger gym. It can be sectioned off with stuff, but I mean, the availability and the need of additional gym space in this town, I think is, I think it's undeniable. And not just for gym space, I'm talking about community center space, a place for kids to go. Homework zones that kids can do and hang out and do their homework, a program for CASA, and, you know, almost most importantly, a home for the Parks and Rec Department, which hasn't had a home for, I don't even know how many years it hasn't had a home. And it's in a facility now that is being operated by remote electric heaters because the rest of the building is shut off, really. A makeshift restroom area. You know, if we want to have a viable, and I think we do have a viable Parks and Rec Department, which has been, you know, provided incredible services not only for our kids but for our adults also in terms of language and sewing and such. I think we have to make some decisions as a council in the town if we want to keep them in business or not financially, but just giving them the facilities to go forward. But I think the facilities in the schools, I know of many groups that use the gymnasiums, and not as much in the middle and high school, but I know in the ATC and the Fort Banks that those facilities are used and available. But again, this is just thought. I'm not asking for any votes. Councilor Ayala.
Just something sort of a philosophical element to this. So I have no disagreeing with you about the condition of the hockey rink and the hockey rink needing the investments that you described, nor the fact that we need a recreation center, headquarters for Parks and Rec and all that stuff as well. I just want to recognize, and listen, I'm with everybody else, if we could get the War Memorial Auditorium back to a performance space, that sort of added to the performance space is nice as well. But there had been a discourse in this town for a long period of time of also using the middle school as a place to generate some tax revenue through private real estate development. The reality is, as we choose this path, as we get up to the middle school site itself, that's the highest part of the site and it's closest to an existing residential neighborhood. It is likely that anything big and bold is not gonna happen at that end of the site, which is fine. It just, you know, you could build some housing there, et cetera, but we're not gonna likely get a real revenue producing development piece out of this whole thing, which is not the end of the world. It's something that the council, as we're proceeding down this path, ought to be aware that from that perspective, which is only one of sort of a broader perspective we have to take, we are not going to be able to sort of have a big revenue change there. I'm not saying that's the end of the world, but just be aware of that. And honestly, I don't know how I think about this whole thing, to be honest, but I don't disagree with anything that the council president described as needs of the community.
And I have to, not that I have to, but I agree that the goal there is to make it an income producing, not only in terms of tax revenue and such, but just an economic stimulus for the center and other businesses in town and just in general. And trying to do that in a prudent way to maintain density as thick as it is right now, not to go crazy with it, but to look at possibly another use. But I don't know, you know, I think the gymnasium is extremely viable and needs to be pursued. As much as I'd like to do something on a community level with the auditorium, I don't know how financially stable that would be. And I'm thinking more that probably piece and the middle school piece would be used in some sort of development project. The topography isn't fantastic, like you've said, it's lower towards the rink, you know, higher, whatever you want to say. But it depends what type of facility you want. I just think, you know, not we, but the town in general has gone back and forth on this for 7 years, and it's time that we move on it and try to get some viable options. Councilor DeMarco?
you know, it's for a while, 7 years, like you said, we've been talking about revenue and how to best use that site. I look at it and I say, what is best for Winthrop? How can we best use this space for our kids, our town, the people here? All right? To be honest with you, when it comes to that site, I don't care about revenue. I really don't. I care about what's best for the town. You know, my bubby used to tell me, you know what? In 1960, we sat on the bridge to build a new high school, and we had no money. In 1980, you know, you were going in school, we had no money. And it's like, you know, we have no money now, and guess what? If you think you're gonna have money in 10 years, you're not gonna have any money. So we have an opportunity, we have a unique opportunity to step up and do what's right for this town and put something in there that helps the community. And that's what I think we should do.
And we will have much, thank you, Mary. We will have much more discussion on this. I just wanted to put this on the table. And the last item here is Winthrop Beach access points. I know we had discussion towards the end of the summer on the DCR, or whatever they're called now, the DCR which took a ladder off up by the green bars, one of the first points of access to the beach, and they took it down, and I think they had reasons to take it down. I think it was it was made by someone in the town, and they didn't want to take the responsibility for that, but they had promised to give us access back, and to the best of my knowledge, that is still not happened, and now we're getting close to the summer again, so I want to be proactive with this and make sure that access is there. I've asked Denise to reach out, and hoping that we might have a representative sometime in March, either the first or second meeting in March, from the DCR, to give us an update on access to the beach, to make sure our residents have access, because it's very dangerous now to try to jump down 5 or 6 feet. And Vice President Ruggiero.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Yeah, I can confirm, I did walk by it the other day, it is still boarded up. And I wholeheartedly support having someone from DCR either physically come here or Zoom into a meeting. You know, this is the type of thing where, you know, DCR represents, or they're responsible for, you know, I don't know, however many, maybe 100, I don't know, throwing numbers out there, but state parks and beaches all throughout the Commonwealth. And it's another example of us getting potentially overshadowed because something happening in Revere or Walden Pond or one of their other properties. So, you know, I think we gotta, just like we're doing with the MBTA, we kind of need to rally together here and make sure we get some support in the council, but from the community as well, to get some attention from them. So
I totally agree that we seem to get shortchanged when it comes to the beach and the upkeep and such, and you look at Revere Beach and how it's raked almost every day, and this, that, and the other thing, and you know, we need to act instead of react. Public comment? Yes, Mary Alice.
Hi, Mary Alice Sharkey, Precinct 1. I'm here with a group of my mothers out front. We know already Karina, Precinct 3, Carol Walker, Precinct 5, and Barbara Bishop, Precinct 2. First of all, we'd like to thank all of the council for agreeing and voting in positive to allow our town manager to search for an alternative plan for our electricity. I know that he's going to be looking for different options that will procure for us, but it's also part, as Councilwoman Flockhart said, we'll still be receiving our services from National Grid. What will be investigated is what are the different other sources that will filter in to National Grid. And some of these sources actually could, they won't guarantee it, but they could help to supply 15 to 20% less on our electric bills, and I think if anyone has seen our electric bills lately, they have gotten extremely high. And what they will be looking for are different sources that will provide what they call a greener power. And these are hydro, wind, solar. And when they say solar panels, somebody had asked me, well, I don't want those things on my house. Well, they're not saying you have to. The companies that's supplying will be using that solar power. So we just want to say to all of your constituents that maybe we need, even if it's a bullet somewhere, either passed out flyers from our town council so that people can understand it better. Even reading is extremely confusing to say, well, who's on first and who's on second? But if we bullet it, it may give us a better understanding, and then.
Good energy gives them material.
Yes, so, but thank you again for voting in the positive for us, and I think of it as for our town, and I know that's how you vote too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Any other public comment? Mr.
Bill Schmidt, Precinct 5, couple of issues. Since you were talking about parking in the CBD, I walk a lot with my friends on the weekends and stuff, and you have a situation over that new development on Somerset, where it's supposed to be live parking. I don't think people understand what live parking means, because what happens is people park and then they go out and do some errands because they think they'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes. And I was down the other day and a truck's trying to come down Cottage Park and make the turn there, and they can't do it. So I think in terms of also enforcement, there needs to be some communication with people who are parking there that what live parking means. Doesn't mean getting out of your car and saying, I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Live parking means someone should be in the car to
Right.
move in case of an emergency.
And they're not doing that. So the second issue, I'd just like to talk about the middle school development. Here's the way I would look at it. First of all, I'm willing to pay more taxes in this town. I think there's a lot of other people who probably will as well, because it's a special town, and we know that it's a special place, and we know because we don't have a lot of commercial development, industrial development, we have to pay more in property taxes. Well, I would suggest when you look at the middle school site, you look at, in terms of, on one hand, what would be maximum development in terms of financial development? What would that bring in as revenue? Because revenue is also for the benefit of the town councilor. Then I would look at what I agree with you, I think a rink is great, and a gymnasium and a community center, probably that limits your development. So figure out what's the amount of revenue that the difference is. Then I would suggest you folks advocate for Proposition 2.5 override to make up that difference. So in other words, if you're saying and pose that question to the town. If we need development, we know what our town's employees aren't paid a lot, and there are a lot of other things we don't have. So you pose that as a question. We can have revenue, or we can have these services with less revenue, but you have to make it up somewhere else. That would be my suggestion, that you do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Mr. Dowd?
did you forget?
No, I didn't see your hand up. You're so meek and mild, sometimes you go unnoticed.
Getting old. As far as the middle school site, I did bring down a contractor, and Peter was there that day. As a matter of fact, Peter had him as a student at Swampscott High School. What was his first name? Tom Groom?
Tom Group, yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, we did a walkthrough there, and what they did in Swampscott, the old Winthrop High School on the corner of Pauline and Waldemar, and the Swampscott Old High School were prototype high schools. They looked almost exactly the same. So it took a while, but Mr. Groom did get the permission to build a structure there. And I think it's on Greenwood, and I think it's called Fisherman's Watch. So I visited it a few times. Did you visit?
Did I what?
Did you visit with me? Richie Farino visited with me. So we brought him down here. And he said the location of the middle school would be a perfect spot for a duplicate building of which he just built in Swampscott. I proposed this at previous meetings, and I got no feedback from anybody. But you could possibly put 25 units in there. The units in there right now go for over $1 million apiece. So you can imagine the revenue. I don't know if there's 25 or 30 units in the building. How many units you want to make up here is completely up to the town and the developer. The developer wants to make money. So that's one thing that I did do as far as the development prospects at the middle school classroom site. Otherwise, the rest of the land is about 11.1 acres. It used to be 13, but then they put in Walden Street, so they took some land. So there's 11 acres available, and it's parkland. So if you don't take the buildings down, I'm not gonna say anything. What could I say? Mr. Gill did not like the idea of the Groom Construction Project. He wants,
I want 6 two-family houses.
6 or 8 two-family townhouses.
And it would require, you know, different lot sizes, dimensions that are on it.
Well, maybe we'll wait, Peter, on that big complex that some
Yeah.
people want. So anyways, I have brought, people in. I also brought in somebody that gave a contract, a proposal to the town to take down the buildings. There was much discussion in the planning board about that, whether it was gonna be 3 million or I think it was 795,000, which is what the proposal said at the time. Now that's years ago, of course, cost. But he said he would honor that, and that was just 3 years ago. So, you can look into those 2 options. You know, the auditorium looks like it needs, $5 million, to walk through the door.
Yeah.
The gymnasium looks like it needs, $3 million, just to walk through the door. And now you're talking about a locker room for the,
Right.
hockey rink, which is, acceptable. That's a must, I believe. But there's many things to be considered. I hope you will consider the things that I just mentioned, and talk about it. The other thing I said years ago was, the most valuable land in the town is waterfront. We have 8 miles of waterfront. I think, to cram micro units or whatever you want to cram down the center is not a good idea. We're already talking about parking spaces. You're gonna be talking about parking spaces for the rest of your lives. Structures along the coast of Massachusetts, Boston, East Boston, et cetera, they put the parking underneath the building. And that'll leaves many, disgruntled opinions about where are people gonna park. So, to promote water view structures, it should be talked about almost every day of the week. Who's gonna do what where? I mean, somebody on Veterans Road just got permission to build 10 units. That's a good start. I think it's at the corner of Shirley and Veterans Road. So they got permission, so we're on the right direction. Concerning the beach, and I came into a town council meeting 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, what is the state cultivating on Winthrop Shore Drive? And people looked at me, and they said, where? And I said, have you been out? What the state did was they brought in soil from up in Route 1 that included seeds of lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarters, there's another Latin name for it, but it's a type of ragweed. The beach looks like a horror movie when you go down the beach. When you go down to the side, it looks like all little people running around. The ragweed, the lamb's quarters ragweed, and people are allergic to it, will take over the whole town if the state doesn't do something about it on Shore Drive. That's just the way it goes. Seeds spread, the wind, it'll go to the golf course. It's already down to Sturgis Street. It started at the north side of the beach, from the MDC station north. Now it's all the way down to Sturgis Street. So if you don't take care of it, or have the state take care of it, and they came down to a meeting here, and they denied bringing that land squatters seed into Winthrop. They denied it, so then they ran out the door. Somebody has to take over dealing with the state about the situation on Shore Drive. You know, next thing you know, you'll be cutting down bushes in front of your house. And when they die, when they're not green, if you kick them, it's like kicking an oak tree. They're very sharp. If you fell on one, you would regret it the rest of your life. So where the beach gun is gonna go? If this lamb's quarters ragweed takes over the whole of Shore Drive. I hope someone takes this up with the state. I hope somebody on the council is assigned to this task. I'll be waiting to hear from you on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to address a couple of things you said, we have got new estimates on demolition of middle school, auditorium, gymnasium, everything, which, you know, we have updated. We're also having the land surveyed, plot plan done, from Grady Associates, I think, is working, so we're working with that. So we are trying to move forward, on the middle school site. And to your point on the beach, it's 100% well taken, and I do believe that that soil came from the old expansion that was supposed to be up on Route 1 near the old Showcase Cinema Rotary there going north.
Yeah, they basically ruined Shore.
Yes. And we will hopefully have DCR here, and we could not only talk about access, but we could talk about upkeep and maintenance, because once it goes, and we don't seem to be able to get it back once it goes, because, you know, another, one, Mr. Schmidt.
I would suggest if, when you bring DCR here, invite your state rep and your state senator to be here.
Good idea.
One
Vice President
real
Ruggiero.
quick thing on the beach. It is a shame because a whole heck of a lot of time, money, and effort and resources went into renovating that, what seems like pretty much the first half of my cognizant life here in town. And now that all of that upkeep is, or all that renovation work is completed, you know, the other part is upkeeping it. And so it's just sort of, it's a shame.
No, it's $26 million and 13,000
Yeah.
truckloads of dirt, sand, whatever you want to call it.
Through the town.
And, yeah.
All right, councilors, any updates? Councilor Honan, Councilor Fusillo, Councilor, geez, I'm having trouble with your name today. I mean, it's everywhere in Winthrop, you would think I could remember Belcher. Councilor Belcher.
No.
Councilor DeMarco?
Tony, I have to mention this, and I told Council President this earlier today, but my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, wanted something on the agenda today. She wants the town of Winthrop to buy the Mona Lisa from the Louvre.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually looked it up. It's $1 billion.
Oh, good.
Okay, Council President Jim
We're a little
Lettieri
short.
told me that there'd be nobody left in the town working to protect it. But my daughter thinks it would be a boost for the town if we bought the Mona Lisa. So I'm bringing it up to you, so you get on that.
You got it, thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Aiello?
I'd like to propose we send Councilor Ruggiero to see if it's available for sale.
I will go and, on that mission. On that mission.
I thought you were gonna write the check, Councilor Aiello. Councilor DeMarco?
I already went.
Vice President Ruggiero? All right, a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Well, before we adjourn, why don't we talk about upcoming events with the Spring Forum? The charter requires the council to have a spring forum and a fall forum. The fall forum is more about finance, the spring forum is more about services to the town. So that forum will be held at the DeLeo Senior Center on March 21st, our second meeting in March. We will have the council meeting before that meeting. The council meeting will be at 6 and the spring forum will be at 7 as usual. Motion to adjourn, I think, has been made by Councilor
Seconded.
Fusillo, seconded by Councilor Belcher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.